Oh, hi guys, how's it going? Today I have a bit of a different video for you today. I wanted to talk about a topic that, you know, comes very close to my interests or close to my heart, I would say almost. And it is that we have in the PC space, a very worrying trend of GPUs, the graphics cards, just increasing and increasing and increasing the power consumption to ridiculous levels. Just some days ago, we had the release of the RDX 3090 Ti, which is using like a 450 watts of power, and you know it's mind blowing to me that we went from high end cards being at the absolute worst 300 watts to suddenly using 450 watts and maybe even 500 watts in the future if this trend keeps going. And I think this is very worrying. And I think not a lot of people understand the implications of having such high power consumption video cards in the market. Um, I used to live in one of the countries where power was really expensive, yes. And if you wanted to use air conditioning, like if you wanted to play video games, right, and you are running like a 350 watt video card, and you're trying to cool it because when you run such high power cards, those 350 watts of power are pumped out into the case, first into your computer case, which makes all the components inside hot, and it is also pumped out from the case into your room. And that heat, if it goes over 300 watts or 350, 400 watts, you're actually going to feel it like 1 or 2 degrees Celsius up in temperature in your room. Now, a lot of people will say, okay, fine, I don't mind 1 or 2 degrees extra, which is a lot, by the way. It is a lot of temperature. Maybe they would say, oh, but I can use air conditioning to make up for that additional heat. But you know you're at a point where the computer running your game is competing with your air conditioner, in terms of keeping, trying to keep your room at a given temperature, you know. And I think we should be more vocal about it. I don't think this is good for gaming. We should be going for more environmentally friendly gaming, not gaming with absolute stupid, power consumption. I don't believe in that. Now, one of the good things about AMD cards that I want to talk about today is that they come with many features for you to try to make the gaming more environmentally friendly, right? One of the tools is Radeon Chill, which is an adaptive frame rate technology, which when you're not doing anything, like I am right now, sitting at the menu, it sets the frame rate to a fixed given number. It could be 60, 75, like my target, or 90, whatever. You can set the minimum. It can even be something like 30, and then it has a ceiling, a maximum FPS target, which could be usually the refresh rate of your monitor or a little under, if you want to stick to the BRR window. My target is 140 FPS at the moment. And the way it works is when you're really moving a lot in the game, you're fighting some monster, you move the camera around, and you're pressing the buttons, you know, to do actions, at those moments in time, the card is going to give you all the performance. It's going to go and give you all the performance. You're going to get all of those high frame rates, so you can land the shot and you can, you know, dodge the attack or whatever. It's going to go balls to the wall at those moments in time where you really need the performance. And you know, one of the things about high refresh, which is very interesting, is that it is not perceived the same way for everyone, you know. I read an article many years ago which says that one of the changes your eye notices the fastest, you know, because the human eye is of course not perfect, right? But the change you notice the fastest is the change in luminosity, right? So when you're moving around the camera, right, and trying to not get hit by some rocket or whatever, and if you're able to notice that change in luminance in your screen faster, you're going to be able to react faster to it. So this is basically on average when you're really looking for those things, you know, you're moving around, this is when you really need the performance. And it is also the way people notice high frame rates more often than not when you move stuff in motion. So when you're moving the camera in an FPS, you know, Metro Exodus, 144 hertz, you move the camera, you're like, oh Jesus, this feels very amazing, right? You feel connected to the game. So what Radeon Chill does is it tries to give you that feeling, right? You feel completely connected to the game when you're moving, but when you're standing still, it tries to save power by not giving you balls to the wall performance. So it is a very smart algorithm. It has been improved for many years, and today I want to show you how you can, by adjusting a few settings, start gaming in a more environmentally friendly way with a Radeon card, right? Now, one of the caveats of Radeon Chill is that, of course, since it is a frame rate adaptive technology, you know, the frame rate becomes like a fluid. It is not completely stable or fixed at a given rate. It really helps out, or rather, it is basically required that you have a variable refresh rate display. So you're going to need some FreeSync or VRR, a VRR TV, for example, from LG. You're going to want to have VRR. It depends on VRR. Because if you don't have it, you're going to notice some screen tearing, or you're going to notice some additional input lag because the display has to keep refreshing at a fixed rate. On the contrary, if you have FreeSync, Radeon Chill is completely amazing, you know. That fluidity in the frame rate is very smooth. Now, I'm going to show you some data today, including a metric which I haven't seen used by many tech tubers. So that metric is going to be FPS per watt, and I'm going to show you how you can be more environmentally friendly today if you have a Radeon card. So the way I did this is I performed 3 runs of Resident Evil 2. This is running at maximum settings. Right now, my card has a very slight undervolt, and I am using Radeon Chill. And I did the same run for 3 configurations. One is stock settings out of the box, the way the card comes out of the box, plus Radeon Chill. Then slight undervolt plus Radeon Chill, and finally some manual tuning I did to my card to get it running at the absolute peak efficiency, and that tuning was run without Radeon Chill. So I'm going to be showing you data for those 3 configurations, and just to illustrate how I did the run, so I'm going to show you what the run looks like in real time. Okay, so remember, now I have a slight underbolt, nothing special, just out of, you know, anyone can do this type of underbolt, nothing major, and we have Radeon Chill enabled. With the overlay on the top left, you can track the real-time power consumption of the 6900 XT, and you can see how the Radeon Chill algorithm works in adjusting the frame rate, also in adjusting the power consumption. So the run is very simple. I just do the first few sections of the RPD, so all the way until we talk to Marvin. So we're going to open this gate, we're going to go down, and I try to introduce some interesting, or rather than interesting scenarios, I try to stress the card in different ways, you know. We're going to turn on this light to change the environment, take the bullets, and then we're going to go here. We're going to fail lifting it the first time, then we lift it, and now we're going to go try to save our police friend, right? And just take a look at how Radeon Chill adjusts the frame rate and the power consumption depending on what I do. Alright, we get the notebook, close it. We're going to get a visit from this friend. We're going to point at him, then wait for him to go over here. Alright. Now we're going to say hello to Marvin. So we're going to get out of here. Alrighty. So we dodge those two zombies and we run out. Now we are going to watch the cutscene for a little bit, you know, to stress the card in different ways. And you can see how Radeon Chill is adjusting the frame rate and the power consumption in real time, you know. And all this time, you know, I am moving the game around. I'm moving the game around. Huh? Where's the knife? Oh, interesting. I didn't take it. All right. So we're going to open the gate. And you know, all this time I'm moving, you know, I'm dodging zombies and moving the camera. And it feels fantastic. So we're going to wait here. Now that the gate is open, we just go ahead and look at that policeman over here. Just take a look at the policeman and we're done with this run. So we take a look at the policeman, you know, stressing the card in different ways. And you can see how Radeon Chill is adjusting the power consumption. There we go. And this is the end of the run. So I did the same run for all three configurations. It is about 4 minutes. That was the goal. And, you know, I think it is mostly representative of how the performance is going to be across the game. You know, not counting variability in VRAM usage, because the VRAM usage does change depending on which level you're on. And you know, while I was playing, I can tell you, you play with Radeon Chill, it feels like a high refresh experience. You know, there's not a lot of difference from you run it unlocked and you run it with Radeon Chill. That is how good the technology is. So let's take a look at some numbers. So first is let's see. Sorry, this title is incorrect. This title should be just Resident Evil 2. And here from my comments, you can see the configuration. So first, Radeon Chill at stock settings, right? So out of the box, you can see that we do hit the ceiling of FPS quite often, actually. So here it is, the P95. We get 138.5. My ceiling is 140 FPS. So you do hit the ceiling in FPS when you're really moving around. You need to move around with the camera. Our averages were 100 FPS, but again, the average is not like you stay at 100 for a lot of the time, you know? When you're moving around, you're more like closer to 138, you know? So when you're moving around, the game is extremely smooth, you know, high refresh experience. And, you can see our lows are basically 75, you know, what I have set as my ceiling. And this is using the default setting of Radeon Chill for my display, you know. Depending on your display, Radeon Chill will suggest to you different settings. Now here, let's look at the sensor data. And you can see that on average, we're using 88 watts of power, you know. Now this is a huge power saving. And you can see that our peak power consumption, so we have some spikes of power which are around 242 watts. And, you know, even though we have really, compared to the average, really high spikes, you know, our average power consumption is still 88 watts, right? Which is really good, you know, 88 watts. This is very efficient for playing video games, you know. And this is 1440p max settings, you know. 88 watts, pretty nice. Then we're going to take a look at what happens if we use... the last metric I want to look at here, in this corner right here, in the orange graphs, right? This is the most important metric, I think, which is FPS per watt. So this tells you how efficient your card is running at that time. And we can see that we have a score of 11.14, right? So, we are going to be comparing this number with the other configurations. But you can see that just by turning on Radeon Chill, we get a really nice 88 watts of power consumption on average. Now, we're going to take a look at Radeon Chill with a slight undervolt. Yes, so this is no longer stock settings. This is just, we reduce the voltage by a little bit. You know, this is not a lot of research undervolt. This is just a normal undervolt. So if we take a look at that data, you can see that our P95 is basically the same, you know, 138.1. Our averages are pretty similar, 96.7, right? Our lows are still around 75. But if we look at the GPU power consumption, again, in the sensor data, you can see that now, while our average was basically the same, 87 watts, our peaks are lower, right? So now our peak is 180 watts. So this is the undervolt working, right? When you undervolt the card, you really get a huge improvement in the peak power consumption. So if you're trying to avoid, power spikes, huge power spikes, transient power spikes, I really do recommend you undervolt the card. Look at that. You can avoid bigger and bigger spikes of power. You know, going from 245 watt power spikes to 180 watt power spikes, it's a huge difference, man. Yeah, but here is the kicker. You know, if you take a look at your average power consumption with that undervolt and Radeon Chill, you get 87 watts. At stock we were using 88 watts. And if you take a look at the FPS per watt, we're getting a score of 11.11 with that undervolt. But at stock, we get 11.14, right? So we're at margin of error territory. So what this means is that if you use Radeon Chill, the algorithm is already helping you to keep the card more at the peak peak efficiency part of the curve, rather than the peak power consumption part of the curve. So even though we have an undervolt and using Radeon Chill, we're not gaining much in terms of efficiency. So that means that if you don't care about undervolting your card, you only care about how do I save power now, you will gain a lot by just turning on Radeon Chill. And even if you don't undervolt your card, you're still going to get the same efficiency as you would with the undervolt and using Radeon Chill. So Radeon Chill basically negates the undervolt because it is keeping the card more closer to the efficiency part of the curve. Yeah. So for people who want to save some power now, right, turn on Radeon Chill. It's already going to give you a good result. If you want to avoid more power spikes with your Radeon Chill setup, undervolt the card. If you undervolt the card, you're going to get much lower power spikes. Now, the final data point I want to show is what happens if you tune the card to the most efficient possible way. If you spend a lot of time researching how to reduce the clock speed, reduce the voltage, and just find the peak efficiency part of the card. And that data is here. So this recording was done with the card set to 2 gigahertz. So it was a reduction of 500 megahertz in the core clock, and I reduced the voltage from 1175 to 1030, which is a huge difference in voltage. Yes. And this is what I call the ultra silent undervolt. I spent a lot of time finding the peak, the best settings for my card, so I could get the most performance and use the least amount of power. So this is that setting. And the difference here is versus Radeon Chill, I am running the card without any FPS algorithm. I'm running it balls to the wall. Give me everything you can to max out my display, which is 165 hertz V-synced. So yes, I am actually limiting the frame rate, but it's running at 165 all the time. So running at those settings, we can take a look at we can see the P95 169, average 163.1. So there was no adaptive FPS technologies enabled, no chill, whatever. And if you take a look at the GPU power in the sensor data, you take a look at the average, we are using about 126 watts of power. So versus Radeon Chill, we're using about 40 to 50 watts more power on average. Yes? This is using more power. No doubt about it. This is, we are really using more power. Again, naturally, since I undervolted very aggressively the card, the power spikes are not very high. We're getting power spikes of 158. And, this is already much lower than the 180 watt power spikes we were getting by using full clocks and slight undervolt. So here we are using 50 more watts of power on average, right? The power consumption is up. There's no question about it. But I want you to take a look at the FPS per watt over here in the orange data. So this score is substantially higher. Now we're at about 12.94. So this is already almost 2 full points ahead of Radeon Chill at stock. Radeon Chill at stock 11.14. Aggressive underclock 12.94. This is a huge difference in efficiency, And this is what shows you that, this setting is really much more power efficient than the Radeon Chill at stock. However, and here is the big however, the power consumption, even with this setting, is higher than Radeon Chill. We're using about 40 to 50 watts more power. And I want you to understand that if you look at the GPU clock here in the sensor data, the maximum is 1934 because of my 2 gigahertz limit. But in the Radeon Chill data at stock, you can see the clock speed is closer to 2.5 gigahertz. So the range in clock speed is, of course, much higher in the Radeon Chill data. And what that means is sometimes you really need that high clock speed to render something in some instances. There can be some instances in the game where, at that specific moment, the card boosted to 2.5 gigahertz and it gave you the image just in time, So I think, in this sense, if you think about it that way, I think the Radeon Chill data, that setup has more chances of giving you, compared to my ultrasilent undervolt, in some instances it can give you more performance or more frame rates, where the ultrasilent undervolt setting is hard capped at 2 gigahertz. You can, there can be some places where the Radeon Chill setup will give you smoother frame rates. This is what I think. Now, here you have two options, right? You can either go more efficiency, get more FPS per watt by aggressively tuning your card and spending some time studying it. But, you can, even though it is not as efficient, what this data shows you is that if you turn on Radeon Chill, even at stock, that efficiency is, in all honesty, not that far away. It's about 10% versus the most efficient setting of the card. So what this is telling me is that by just turning on Radeon Chill, you are really pegging the card to the most efficient part of the curve. And the kicker here is the power consumption. We are using about 88 watts here. And if you compare it to the super tuned version, we are using 126. So there is a huge difference in power consumption here. It is about 50 to 40 watts, If you're playing in summer, or you're playing in some environment where, you don't want the extra noise, you don't want the extra heat, what this is telling me is Radeon Chill is very effective, man. This is very effective. Even if you don't want to mess with any settings in the card. And let me tell you, when you have a freezing display and you have a really well programmed game like Resident Evil 2 and you try out Radeon Chill, if I were to do blindly playing between the Radeon Chill at stock and the ultrasilent undervolt and the game at stock settings in the card, there is not a lot of difference, man. Because the way you really can tell that you're not running at super high frame rates is in motion. When you're moving, when someone goes to a shop to test the refresh rate of a phone or a tablet, they don't just stare at the image, they don't look at the video. They try to move the menus, they try to look at the text in motion, because the frame rate is detected in motion. You really have to see the game in motion to appreciate the frame rate. And when you turn on Radeon Chill, the motion is preserved at high refresh rate. Yes, you get high refresh rate motion. And that is the crucial part. So, what I can conclude from this experiment is that if you want to save power immediately, you want to be more environmentally friendly, turn on Radeon Chill. You don't need to aggressively tune your card like I did, which arguably it is very efficient this way, As you can see, my GPU power never goes above 158, even at the peaks. You don't have to aggressively tune your card this way if you want to achieve several similar levels of efficiency. All you have to do is turn on Radeon Chill, and you're going to get a huge boost in power efficiency. You're going to get lower power. You're going to reduce the noise of coil whine. You're going to, keep and the most important thing is keeping your room cool. If you use a video card at 300 watts of power all the time, you're going to sweat, man. Seriously. Nobody talks about this. Everyone says, oh, it's so nice to play with 3090, whatever. Dude, you're going to sweat. Nobody likes to sweat while playing games, okay? Nobody likes it. I have never met a single person that likes it, yes? Conclusion. You want to save power, be environmentally friendly, turn on Radeon Chill. And turn on Radeon Chill. Yeah, try it out. I think this is a fantastic option in the driver. Nobody talks about it. It appears that nobody cares anymore about power consumption. The sad thing is we are going towards a different type of gaming world. I have never seen this in my life. They just want bigger and bigger cards and bigger power consumption, but whatever, it is what it is. But I am thankful that with the AMD suite, we have options. If you want to save power, you have options. You can tune your card, and one of the big features of having such high clock speeds in the Radeon cards is that you can reduce it, and you don't lose a lot of performance either. I think this is fantastic. So that's going to be all from me today. Sorry about the long, drawn-out video. So I have shown you the data. If I want to ask you, what do you think about power consumption in video cards these days? Do you think it's justified? Do you think it makes sense? If you had the option of saving power, would you take it? Would you take it? I mean, would you just go ahead and turn on Radeon Chill, which is just one click away, will get you this efficiency? It is close to that super tuned efficiency. Of course, it is not perfect. It is about 10% off, but you're getting close, and I think that is worth talking about. So that's going to be it for me. Sorry for the drawn out video. I will catch you guys in the next one. So bye bye.